going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. I'm so excited for this episode, and it's definitely not going to be a long one because it really doesn't have to be, but I've had a lot of questions in regards to our compost pile as it pertains to finished compost. What constitutes finished compost? So I thought I'd make this episode so that you all could at least set aside some of your worries and fears about using compost that doesn't look like the compost you get in the store. This is because compost you get in the store has often either been sitting for far too long or it has been sifted, or both. Now, anytime you buy something that has been sifted, you lose a lot of the benefits that come from having an unsifted compost. That's right, there are benefits from having an unsifted compost. One of those is beautiful soil structure. When you put a sifted compost into your garden beds, what happens is you lose a lot of that rich humus, which I'll show you in a second. The fact of the matter is there might be organic matter in the compost. Obviously, that's what compost is. But when you put it in a sifted form, you are reducing the particle size, which means that the surface area is increased. And the surface area, when it's increased, you lose a lot of those air gaps. Now, there's a lot of aeration still in sifted compost, and I'm not poo-pooing it, but a lot of people are concerned because it doesn't look like the stuff they find in the store. And so I really want to just clear up some of those misconceptions, because I personally have really come to love using a unsifted compost. Now, for a seed starting mix, by all means, we talk about the importance of this all the time. It is critical to sift your seed starting mix to the finest size possible so that the roots have the easiest time going throughout the soil and kind of just taking up the growing medium space that you have. But when it's in your beds and it's in your garden, those plants really don't need to be babied. They need to have really good soil structure for a long period of time. And because you're starting your seeds usually indoors or in a greenhouse, and you're only keeping them for a temporary amount of time, it really doesn't allow time for there to be compaction. But what you will find is when you take out the larger chunks in your compost, it can compost much quicker, and it has a tendency to compact much quicker because you're taking out those different particle sizes, which are natural and found in any soil found in nature. And that's really at the heart of why I like to use it, is because it simulates nature more than sifting it does. So when you go to a forest floor, you'll find there is particle size from the smallest particle size up to large whole branches that are decomposing, and they all decompose at different rates, and that allows for good aeration, but it also allows for good soil structure that fungus and bacteria can call home. The humus is the leftover exoskeleton of whatever organic matter was there prior, and so I'm going to show you that now, because that is the heart of using unfinished compost. And I think it's something that is so often overlooked because people fear that that it's not completely composted. They think it needs more time, when in fact it's ready to use in the gardens. This is finished compost. Now, from just a glance, you'd say to yourself, Luke, there's a ton of stuff in there that doesn't look composted. The fact of the matter is that this is a completely finished compost pile. It is broken down, it is ready to use in the garden, and it is rich and black. Now, there are obviously some larger sticks and things in there that can be identified, but those are just things that did not break down because, well, I probably ran over some sticks with the lawnmower and those ended up in there. But the smaller bits and pieces, you'll find, there's identifiable things in here, but they're nice and black. What you look for is, what does the structure look like? See how this is just crumbling? See how this just falls right apart? That's not a bad thing. This really spongy texture that holds on to moisture, you can hopefully see that there. I don't know if you can, but when you get something that's spongy like this, ready? Let's see if I can squeeze it. But you get that water and the little bubbles kind of coming out. That's that spongy structure that holds on to moisture in your soil. That helps to give a home to beneficial bacteria and fungi, because they'll colonize that cell structure there, even though it's broken down. And so this right here is what I consider the best quality compost you can have in your garden, because it has the smallest particles and it has the biggest particles. And you can even see here, check this out, look at this. See? Look at that. A little worm. There's a little worm taking up residence in our compost pile. And you can see here, look at this. This is beautiful. This is a great example here of all the different structures. You see that white stuff? That white stuff is mycelium. That is the fungi actually breaking down and colonizing the compost. A good fungally inoculated compost has been well documented to be one of the healthiest and best growing mediums for your plants, because the plants rely on the mycorrhiza, which create a symbiotic relationship with your plant roots. If you sift all of your soil out, you're taking out all of these little bits of spongy material that look uncomposted but are very much decomposed, and that is what they call home. So I want to encourage you guys to use this stuff in your garden. Now, obviously, like I said, when there's big sticks like this that are big and whole, obviously those need a little more time, but if they're dark in color and they're spongy in texture, use them in your garden. Do not fear it. I think one of the biggest fears is that they will sequester nitrogen. And that basically means that the bacteria in your compost pile, they utilize the nitrogen. And they utilize the nitrogen to break down the carbon material in your compost pile. However, the same also will happen in your garden space. If you have mulch and you dig your mulch into the soil, what will happen is that mulch is very rich in carbon, and it will steal and rob nitrogen from your soil to help break down that carbon source. But when it's broken down, like once this is already broken down, the nitrogen is released back into the growing medium from the bacteria, and it can be utilized by the plants. And so, because people often fear nitrogen sequestration, which is a real problem and it does affect plants, they usually don't add this to their garden and they sift it out. And you're missing all of that gorgeous soil structure. Just look at that. Look at how incredible that is. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you learned something new. I think, again, it's just one of those misinformations out there that there's some truth to not using uncomposted material, but knowing and identifying what is composted material will allow you to better your garden. So I really do hope that you utilize this information. Get out there, start a compost pile if you've not yet already. I am just the biggest proponent of using compost in the garden. It is a free resource. It is a great way to feed your plants, to save money, and on top of that, get the highest quality product possible that you just can't find in the stores. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. And we'll catch you all later on the next episode. See ya. Bye.